just my like an autoplay from my Twitch when I went to our own channel. Okay, now it's coming through on Twitch, so that looks good. And I think then we are pretty much ready to start the show if everything's rolling, Dragonate. Great. This has been a long time coming for sure. Matthew, thanks so much for coming on the show. I'm just stoked to get to talk with you some. I usually have like a bunch of questions made out pre-show, but I figured we'd just kind of wing it. I might hit you with like one of the kind of classic intro questions, but otherwise we can just chill and chat and see where it goes because there's plenty to cover and we're in really exciting times. So I know you are a busy man and we just whipped it. Super awesome whip once again. So thanks so much for being here today with us.
Yeah, that whip was something else, right? I'm still off. Well, I passed out for a little nap afterwards, try to get some R&R before this, but oh my God, like I couldn't sleep before it. I was just like, oh my God, Duncan's gonna be there, Victor's gonna be there, whole world's gonna be there, Connie. It was a
Dude,
lot of fun. Afterwards, so many messages were just like, dude, that was so awesome, that was so fun, and when that happened, just like, yes, finally.
it, it's
Yeah,
pretty
everything I was
amazing.
waiting for the all week. Yeah.
Pretty amazing to have like, Trust Wallet coming up on stage at Whip, where it's just something that I don't think was imagined when we started doing this back in the day with a small handful of peeps. But the growth is phenomenal. It's always super fun, super informative. I know a lot of people that are here with us also attend or listen in. And yeah, it's just always rave reviews and super fun. So, I mean, you and Riz pulling that thing really together from, just a kind of hangout into this whole kind of movement is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it was 5 people in Cryptovoxels when it started out, right? And like Skinny, Puffin, Blackbox.art, myself, and there's some mystery person that was in the background. I don't know even to this day who they were. We have a picture of them chilling in the background, but I can't see the name bubble above them. And it was just us talking, like literally sharing each of our own work in progresses. And from January until now, it's just grown and grown and grown. And we have to check the server stats from Discord to see how many people attended within Discord total. But like we were pushing concurrently almost 100 in world, and I'm sure today we cracked 500. I'm like without a doubt, based on the numbers that
Nice.
we had in Discord and the concurrent total attendees there. Like, it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
And even just pushing 100 in world is huge. And that it's holding up, it seems like, semi decent. It's great news to hear that wearables are getting back back on track, and props to, you for hopping into those meetings and getting the petition and kind of putting the fire there to get that back on track too.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, over the past few whips, the in-world experience for me, I've said this before in the Token Smart podcast, like it's lost a little bit of its luster, right? I mean, going in world for me, the one thing that I had in particular loved was checking out the new wearable fashion. Like what new tentacles were people rocking like in their face, avatars or whatever, on any given week. And now that they're going to restart that, that's going to be really cool. And the stability factor, I think, is going to be really big. Because being able to hop in there, not have it break all the time, I think that's big. And I don't know if you've heard, but like Ben is incorporating this Matrix chat into Cryptovoxels. And Matrix chat is this like more generalizable chat service that can connect with all these other different worlds. But the one feature that's really cool for us, the whip, is that there's the ability to integrate a Discord channel. So like we're always in the whip channel and people are dropping all the gifts and all the fun stuff. There's going to be potentially easily after they get Matrix actually working, a way to have the whip channel in world for people. So you're in world in Cryptovoxels, you can see everything that's happening in Discord. and vice versa,
That
right? From Discord, you
that
can hop in with the URL right into Cryptovoxels. I feel like that's the dream, to have both the worlds, both the experiences combined. Because now you're like clicking back and forth between Discord and the whip, and it's not the best experience. It's a little bit disjointed. But the
yeah.
future that we're heading towards, it feels like, okay, finally, like what we've been working for, like what we've set up is finally going to happen.
For me, that's huge. I mean, I think for everyone, we'll see it as a huge, huge step because to have it more fluid and just flow, because like you're saying, it is a bit broken up. And like for me, I'm link dropping. I'm like going back between the Discord on my
Yeah,
phone and then like trying to remember to go drop some in world. But if all that was together and people can share their, all the whatever emojis, gifs, be able to see a drops happened and all this stuff would
yeah,
just be amazing because, and not everybody's going to be in world, but for the people that want to be there, that'll make the experience incredibly smooth and way more fun than kind of trying to keep track on two different devices. And Discord's great
exactly.
for a lot of things, but that's epic news. I had heard that there was going to be possibly some Discord integration, but I didn't know exactly how. So that's epic.
Yeah, exactly. So excited to see all those changes. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done, and like I'm not going to be the one cracking the whip. I'm just going to be going in there and letting them know like we still need it more stable. It was great. For me, even halfway through it, I got a little bit of a refresh, and it took a little long for the avatars and wearables to load. Um, so I'm gonna like really drive that point home. But other than that, like yeah, the team that Ben has assembled around him, they seem to be super solid and really focused
Nice.
on making the project good. So it was awesome to be able to
I
have that inside glimpse.
I think he just, I was talking about that with Elbow, who's here listening in. We do our walk-in talks on crypto, old-time friend that lives up the street from me, and we actually got into Scent at about the same time, and would share some posts from our like walk-in talks. And we were just talking about that like day before yesterday, how there's so much potential, and probably it comes down to Ben needing more of a solid team that he can rely on, and maybe loosening the reins a little on some of the things that he wants to do, or have the people really understand the vision he has and be able to support that and help build that, because it's, I assume it's a huge amount of work for the small amount of people, and with him kind of lead on everything, that would be tough. But yeah, and I saw the tweet. I think he had said something like, yeah, it's not so stable with more than 10 people, and you're like, dude, we bring hundreds of people, we need it way more stable than that. So I totally
That was
cracked up
Rizzle.
when I
That
saw
was
that.
Rizzle.
Oh, that was Riz. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Riz was like, yeah, dozens. That was like 6 months ago. What are you talking about? Yeah, but we were in the same
Yeah,
thread there. We were he was playing bad cop. I was playing good cop there. I was like, yeah, like I hope I didn't cause too much controversy trashing you guys and the token spire. And then Riz was like, fuck this shit. We need to get it better. And then
nice,
right from that conversation, that's when Ben was just like, yeah, hop into the meeting. We got to get you
nice.
in here. We got to get the events better.
And
So
that's a great
tag
move
team
on
effort.
his. That's a great move on Ben's part too, to ask to bring you in, because really, it is, Whip is the forefront at expanding these virtual events to go away. Because DCL events might pull a lot of people, but often it's of like a brief, someone's offering a nice POAP and people just come in and buy a bunch and leave or whatever. There's good events there too. The art launches and stuff draw a lot of people, but most of the
Yeah.
events that I go to, if it's just a little, podcast get together, whatever, there's like a dozen people, 20 people, something like that, which seems to support really well over there. And also it's really cool to have Frankie Needle streaming it over there, the Whip in Decentraland. So I love to see the growth, the integration, and I can barely even imagine some of the things to come.
Yeah, I mean, again, like it's such early days, and we're just starting to have this deeper integration with Decentraland, like you mentioned. They're starting to do more things. The movement there is really exciting. But then that's one world. Sandbox is coming by the end of the year. I know Rizzle was just telling me that we finally inked the agreement. So the last event of the Meta Olympics will be in the Sandbox, kind of kicking the tires there, early beta testers and whatnot, like as
Epic.
Whip Fam does. Yeah. And then the everyone was talking about it at the Whip too during shows afties, the updates from Somnium Space that look absolutely epic. And they're living like 10 years in the crypto future already. But again, like those spaces are going to be where these events start to unfold. And it's my it feels like certain worlds are going to be good for certain things. Like Sandbox, obviously, games, right?
Yeah.
Somnium Space, I feel like Somnium Space is going to be epic for like exhibitions and like really specific events. Maybe a month or so ago at this point, I don't know if you hit it up, but Skygope had an exhibition of his artwork. And it wasn't just him displaying his art. They had a team behind him. Mocha was supporting this, and they hired a specific, like a former architect who went in world, looked at the plot of land, like considered like the geography, considered like the day-night cycles, and then designed from the ground up a gallery for the art so that it would be shown in the best proper light during the time of day. And again, because of the immersive quality there and the VR focus first, it was amazing, dude. It finally
Dude,
felt like, okay, this is what we're kind of looking for. And like the art drops, or I'm not sure what Decentraland art viewings, what they're called. Those are cool. But Somnium Space, wow. That's
so
that's the future folks are driving towards.
was that the one with the upside down trees on the top floor? I
For
went
Sky
to a
Gope,
Yeah, I don't know if it was the same event. I went to an event, my computer can't really run it. It was actually, I think it might have been a Josie stream, and so she was walking us through and showing the gallery that they had built, and it was phenomenal. Like you're saying, the lighting, everything is just like perfect, and it just creates such a rich, full ambiance that's almost like sharper than real life. It is totally different, immersive. I could imagine going in there with a headset on and just getting completely mind blown, lost, and like want to camp out.
dude, remember in May or April, like before one of the early whips, when we were walking around inside Cryptovoxels and we are just talking and stuff like that? It was like it's like that, except we would have this presence with one another. Like we would be like kicking it, right? Like when you go on the walks with walk and talks with a Lapier Wit, like dude, like that's it. We would be able to do that in the virtual world, like and have that same sort of feeling and presence. That was what I was reminded of, like our early Cryptovoxels explorations, right? Just in like a much richer environment. And that's
I'm
that's
s-
where everything's going. And having like the Whip fam with us when we do something like that, can you imagine?
would be
Like
incredible, and
that's
that's what I'm looking forward to. Is like we all will have our unique avatars in 3D, be able to cruise around and really, like you're saying, get more of a feel for the person that you're with right there in world. And it's going to be so much more immersive and so much more interesting to make those deeper connections. So even if you just meet someone, you're going to get way more of a flavor for them, whether versus just being in, Decentraland where, you have Tar, but you kind of have a few choices, or Cryptovoxels where we can get crazy and stuff, but it's not so realistic. Whereas Somnium Space is going to seem almost like you're in a real spot. It is what it feels like from the
yeah,
little I've
it
seen.
does. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, I do
So
want to ask you a little bit just about some of the influences that got you started interested in art in general, and then it maybe lead that into like art NFTs in the crypto space.
yeah, let's do it. So I think I mentioned this at the Whip today too. Connie Digital was pretty instrumental in that over on Scent early 2019, right? So at that point, Connie was there. There's a few other crypto artists that were showing up, and like Connie was living in the future. And one of my favorite things to do is always try to find those experiences where I can live in the future today. And again, crypto it enables those experiences and finding the ability to like scoop up crypto art with crypto, obviously. Like he was just saying exactly what I wanted to hear. So Connie kind of paving the way for what was happening in the digital art. And Neil Yadav actually was even earlier. And he had posted about super rare super early, maybe a couple months even before that. I think I clicked it and checked it out, but it wasn't until Connie that he got me down that rabbit hole. And I mean, early days of finding out about super rare and just digging into what crypto art was, it led me across MLibT, Miss Al Simpson, Max Osiris. Like, those are like the three early artists that when I saw their work, I got like FOMO right away. Like I needed to scoop the pieces that I saw. I was so worried that I wouldn't get it when I gave the initial bids. And from there, it was just like I wanted to talk to them. And that was sort of just around the time that I was starting out the Spotlight series on Scent. And this was pre-podcast. So at the time, like I reached out to MLibT early after I scooped um color. So like, on Cryptovoxels, the old currency or whatever, $ COLR. Um, and Lipti had made to this day one of my favorite pieces where there's the voxelized like multicolored blob that's going back and forth in this weird crazy shadow figure scene, and I just like fell fell in love with that piece, and I scooped it, and as soon as I scooped it I reached out to MNT. I said, I need to talk to you. What's going on with your work? Who are you? What's this whole thing? And then from there, it was just like that started to become a little pattern of scooping work and wanting to dive deeper into the creative journey, the story, the inspiration, and the whole like process. A lot of times for a lot of the artists that I started scooping from, but it really all started with MLibT, Miss Al Simpson, her beautiful mark, Old Money Corrupt series, and then Max Osiris, the crazy bastard, and all the amazing work that he was doing. Some of his old back catalog that I was lucky enough to scoop up. Obviously, much later on, flip for several thousand, like was it 7,600%
Nice.
ROI for two of his pieces, right? Like, insane
Wow.
returns. But they were the three ones that got me started, and like I said, talking to them on the Spotlight series that's been just every single conversation. Like I see Brinkman here, like the conversation I had with him about his approach, how serious he takes his aesthetic, what he's trying to do with his digital art, how he was like he found crypto art because of Killer Acid, not because he took Killer Acid. He's an artist. Right? Like all these stories, it just helps make the space so much more rich and beautiful and alive, right? Which crypto was never that before crypto art or
Yeah.
NFTs, right? Crypto
Yeah.
was just, yeah, let's a bunch of moon boys, cold hard finances, um, a bunch of technical analysis, like not super alive. This is the exact opposite. And now we're doing things like this, talking about stuff like that, about real people, about real artists doing their thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
And those early Spotlight, like even like you were saying before the podcast, those early Spotlight series you did, I mean, that was pretty groundbreaking too. I remember, I mean, that was the first time I really got to hear direct from the artists too, and like MLibD, amazing stuff, and of course Connie got, Connie was a large part of my intro into social currency, NFTs, the fact that you could have music on an NFT and just kind of spark more interest in NFT and crypto art. One other thing though, I would actually be interested in your like your background in appreciating art. Were you always into collecting, like art pieces or like physical art before you got into crypto art? Did you have kind of a tendency to like art, or maybe someone in your family was an artist or collected art or something like that?
No. You could say I had like an appreciation for beautiful things, right? I'm not sure who doesn't in life,
Mhm.
but I never would collect physical art. Um, I mean, maybe because of my background, I moved a lot, right? I from going to school in Pittsburgh for a year. I came to Korea for another year to study. Then I went to university here, going between like little hole in the wall, um, one rooms they call it. Graduating there, moving a couple times, getting married. Like I just you can't put art in your backpack. It's not like a really good move. You're gonna break it and do a bunch of damage to it. So I was just never in a place to scoop real physical art. And I don't think, I mean, at this point, it's not something that's fundamentally appealing to me. There's something super special about carrying the whole collection in your phone with you, and not just in your phone, but like wherever you are, as long as you have your seed phrases. But
Totally.
maybe if I think about it, I mean, the collecting habit is something I had since I was really young. I was a big fan of collecting sports cards and Pogs and Magic the Gathering cards. Those are kind of like my early collections that I built up. And like for sports cards, I was getting like the Beckett price guides and going through like seeing what I had and going through and finding like the highest value cards and like imagining, daydreaming, like, oh, what would it like be like to have those? You know what I mean? Um,
Totally.
and then thinking how much more value like an autograph would have or add to a particular thing. So like that was always the collector side was always with me. The art side, I had an appreciation for the beautiful things. But it wasn't really until Scent, and it connected me and showed me how close and how not far removed art is, right? Because I feel like the traditional art world has this terrible tendency to make itself seem so removed and so like unapproachable to a lot of folks that I just thought art was this magic thing. Like I can't talk to people. Like they just do things that I can't even comprehend. And after the first few conversations, I just realized artists are just running experiments for the most part, and they have a passion like I have a passion for something else, and they're just putting themselves out there and sharing the creation, their creative work, just like I do with writing, or like we're doing right now, putting ourselves out, having these conversations. Obviously, they're doing it in a much more beautiful way. Not that you and I aren't beautiful or whatever, um, but you know what I mean. It's something
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it's so tangible. It's so again, like it goes back to the human thing. It's just so relatable, and it's the total opposite of what the traditional art world tries to convey or make people feel when it comes to art.
yeah, yeah.
Approachable.
It's true that conventional art world is just seems unattainable, these huge barriers and walls. Like you said, even if you just wanted to even try and see some art that it's like, in some, faraway city in a big show, and you'd have to, pay to get there and then pay to get in, or, to have art in a show. Like there's so many barriers that crypto art has brought down and really just sort of opened the door for everyone to be able to appreciate, collect, like you're saying, even connect with the artists themselves, because so many of them are really approachable and open and want feedback and want to connect with the people who are appreciating their art. And we did lose your video. I think mine shows black, but
Oh,
not a huge deal. But that happened a minute ago, and I thought I'd let you know. If you can get back in, we'll see.
yeah.
And
You froze
yeah,
for me
so
too, so that's weird.
oh yeah, right now
Yeah.
it shows it's refreshing. We'll see how it
Okay.
rolls. But so it's amazing also, like you were talking about how, getting in early on finding artists and how you've had some amazing ROI. Have you then been able to sort of replicate that? I mean, I know you've done a scent post and stuff on that, but I'd love to hear a little bit about, your kind of method behind collecting some. Everybody has obviously different tastes, and that largely goes into most of what we collect is what we like and what we're drawn towards. But I would be interested in to hear a little about, what kind of process you have when you find an art piece that you really like. Uh, do you kind of dive in and see who made it? Do a little kind of background check and see what other stuff they have before you would maybe start purchasing, or do you just kind of grab something because you're like, oh, that is amazing, I have to have it?
Again, like number one rule is just like you gotta love it, right? So I think I said this to Art Gnome yesterday when we got into a little conversation about um, like ROI, art collecting, things like that. And it's really, there's no other rule than you got to see it, love it, and then you buy it. Other than that, everything else is icing on the cake. Because if you have a piece and you love it and you don't sell it, like the worst thing that'll happen is that you'll be able to have that piece for the rest of your life. And as long as you love it, that's amazing. But outside of that, like when I look at work and what really helps open up the purse strings is like, okay, is it dank? Like, do you have that first impact when you see a piece? Like after it's like, well, that's awesome. But like if you double down into like what does loving a piece mean? Like for me, I love really dank pieces that are like weird, where they just like, man, that's so fresh. It's so cool. Like Janisu, Still Life #5 is a piece that I have in my collection, and the colors are just so vivid and popping. There's these old, like, they're old now, but like the flip phone
Mhm.
style cell phones with the little dangly accessories attached to them that were super popular in Asia when I first came to Korea. It was just like it struck me on that super dank, super visceral level. Um, and then there's like the stories behind the work. So, for example, I always go back to like Oshinachi, right? And he, as an artist, has such an amazing story um, from Nigeria. The stories that he wants to tell regarding like queer men and their challenges in a society that doesn't acknowledge or recognize queerness, and trying to show the different parts of men in that context. And process that he uses to create his beautiful work in Microsoft Word. Like that, like all of those things individually are just powerful stories, but combined, it's such a rich tapestry on top of a beautiful work of art. And when you find those sorts of stories, it's like, wow. Because you're not just buying a piece, you're buying that story. And
Yeah,
you're not just buying that story, you're investing in the storyteller, which is the artist. And when you find when you're able to tap into that part of human culture, I feel like it's an amazing thing to be able to have a connection to. And for me, it feels like those are the sorts of things that over time will continually accrue value. And there's going to be other people that find those aspects compelling. And obviously they're going to, if they're compelled enough and they have the resources, dole out for that, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's been my experience that, I mean, you can see then how the artists, like, do they care about their collectors, right? So looking how the collector experience is valued in their eyes, like how do they edition their work? Are they conscious of that? Do they care about having a wide base of collectors at first and then selectively like curating their collectors? Like all of those factors, when you talk to the artist, it becomes clear. And then when you like have all of those things together, it's like, wow, okay, you can understand how value can come, right, to certain works and certain artists because of all the things that come together, right? And
yeah,
obviously in this space, having other artists co-sign the work that another artist does, right? So either on Twitter, liking, retweeting, shouting out, writing a blog post about it, getting them to come on their show, like Josie does behind the art. Those are all really, 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 really strong signals. And Hex 6C, Massimo, the Italian scholar that has been analyzing and studying the crypto art market. I mean, that's one of the major factors linked and with a strong correlation to an artist performing well in terms of sales, right? So it's studying
That's
all these
huge.
different elements together, yeah, and having that intuition and that feeling, obviously stemming from like that initial love of the work, that kind of influences a decision to buy a piece with a potential goal, like with the thought that, okay, this could eventually be worth more than I'm paying now. And always keeping that part alive. I mean, that's just how I approach it. Not with I obviously loving it and then thinking that because of these other factors, if the boxes are checked, that it could eventually be worth more. And then taking the step to properly price it and actively curate your collection and making sure that you're putting out the content to promote the artists and the pieces and shout them out and link them and let other people know that you have it in your collection when you can, and actively talk to other collectors in the space. There's always people that are reaching out, wanting to talk about the piece that you have in your collection or pieces, having the open dialogue, being open and honest about how you value it, getting people excited about it, like why you like it. I feel like that's also equally important. So
That's a
yeah, I mean, there's so
really
many threads for that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point that you just hit on about a collector kind of curating their collection and having kind of a reputation of their own as a collector, is also probably a really important thing to think about and hasn't been brought up as much in shows I've had or talked about. So that's a great and interesting point, and glad you brought it up. It kind of has more repercussions in my brain, sort of starting to click together, thinking about it from that perspective. For especially if you're thinking about future wanting to resell something, having a solid collection that you're curating to represent you as a collector and your taste and who you're supporting. Because I know for you probably too, but for me, when I'm collecting, and number one rule totally is like I'm attracted to that. It speaks to me in some way. And then there's artists that will have a style that I connect with and speaks to me. And when you start building a relationship and talking with them more, it can be really rewarding to be supporting their journey as well as getting something you value and might be able to make a profit of, in the future if you decide, yeah, this one I'm gonna let go to someone else that likes it and make a little money off it at the same time.
Yeah, and since what we're buying and talking about is crypto art, the fact that for the most part, as long as you resell on the platform that you buy on, for now at least, the secondary sale, the automatic royalty payouts, that makes it feel much better. Like I can't imagine like what a regular art, a physical art collector feels and thinks. Like, yeah, they're paying probably at this point on average a little bit more for the physical work compared to what they would pay for like the average price of digital artwork. But then when they flip that, like all the profit goes to them and nothing goes to the artist for the most part, with a few exceptions. Like that to me just feels so dirty even thinking about it.
Yeah,
And now we have the opportunity to 10% isn't a lot, but there's other collectors in the space that are working out like 50-50 splits with
that's
artists that
amazing.
I saw the other day. I hadn't heard of that before, but the conversation that erupted about just like the different hats that a collector wears, like once you buy art, you're not just a collector, you become like a promoter, marketer, curator. Um, you're doing all the things. You're your own gallery, right? Literally. And in that discussion, there's other folks that are kind of appearing and popping up saying that, yeah, like, and I'm like striking these deals with the artists to split the sales 50-50, not just 90. So I was like, holy crap. Like, that's
That
taking it
that's
even a step further.
incredible.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting.
Because it does feel really dirty and just wrong to how art has been bought and sold for so long where, it's purchased at, it could be a couple thousand or 10,000 to an artist and then turns around in 100 X's and that all goes to, the gallery or house that sells it or the collector that had bought and sold it. So even the 10% and maybe some platforms you can do 15% of the art resales going to the original artist is huge and groundbreaking, I think, and it, makes the crypto art world so much more kind of fair and more of a community. And to hear about that, this is the first time I've heard of the 50-50 artist splits for resales. That's pretty incredible and amazing and could make a huge difference for especially up and coming or kind of struggling artists life if their stuff starts picking up and they're getting that kind of royalties on a resale. That would really make a big difference. Yeah.
Totally. And I mean, honestly, I love going through Twitter and seeing artists say that like their work has sold on the secondary market and the royalties that they're getting, especially if the pieces were sold a couple years ago, like they're getting multiples off of what they got on the primary sale, which is just like crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I and that's just like the first secondary sale. Like what happens when that multiplies down the line? And this is something that, I mean, as long as the marketplaces are around, like it can continue in perpetuity. And
Yeah.
that's powerful. And these artists, I mean, they can just pass their wallet to the next generation and they can give it to their family. Like pass it down in that way. And it's not something that, oh, after X number of decades, you're no longer entitled to any of these follow-up. No, it's forever. I mean, at least as long
Smart
as people are
contract,
using the
baby.
code.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible. It
It's,
really is revolutionary.
yeah.
I'm kind of interested in like the art and especially the crypto art scene over where you are, how maybe you feel it differs from the States, if it does, because I mean most of the stuff is done all online, metaverse style anyways. So is there do you feel like a difference in the style or what's available and what's happening over there, or is it pretty much just global, global, global?
I feel like it's global right now. I feel like there's so much potential uh, in Asia generally for a lot of artists. Korea, I mean, this is like just total anecdotal observation, but there's so much talent, like creative talent in like all the any Korean person I've ever met my entire life. Like if you look at RISD, the Rhode Island School of Design, it feels like half the student population is like Korean.
Mhm.
It's crazy, right? But in Korea, like to be an artist or to be a creative, it's something that's like shunned upon,
Mm,
right? People they don't respect you if you kind of pursue that. So it's almost like people, if they have a passion for art in whatever form that takes, it's always like a side hobby. It's something that they do just for their own personal amusement and pleasure. Like it's not something that they pursue on a they don't become an artist. Very rarely, right? And I imagine it's similar for other countries, particularly in Northeast Asia. And because of that, it feels like there's so much latent talent that, again, it's okay that it's a side hustle for crypto art because, I mean, you can do it wherever, whenever, as long as you have the ability to kind of upload and connect to the internet. So like I'm not meeting any crypto artists now in this part of the world because I feel like they're not there yet. Like they're not really aware of it. And I don't know if you're at with Asia on Tuesday, but we were talking
yeah,
with Philippe from I'm Token and Alex from Rarible and Kyle from Dat.com, and I'm trying to figure out the state of the of Northeast Asia in particular for NFTs and crypto art, because I feel like it's so nascent. Like it's not
right.
it hasn't even begun to start. There's a couple artists over here, Miwa in Japan, right? And there's a few other artists that are here and there, but there's not a critical mass. nowhere near it here. It's just there still needs to be so much education, so much kind of spreading of awareness, um, that yeah, that's where it's at for here.
Well, hopefully that is something that is gonna be budding out soon. That's interesting. I mean, you know, cultures everywhere are different, and you if you grow up in a space where artists are kind of looked at as, you know, could be maybe in the States in some parts, oh, artists are like dirty hippies or something. So that community or sub community kind of wouldn't be following their art passions just because of their surroundings. So, you know, for whatever kind of cultural reasons in the past, if you couldn't earn a good living as an artist and it was looked down on for some reason, that that's a barrier to overcome. But maybe with Asia and just having these communities that we have that seem to be spreading tendrils deeper and deeper into every part of everywhere. Something to look forward to definitely is a lot more Asian artists coming on the scene then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've scratched the surface of what sort of creative revolution and creative masterpieces will start to pour out from the world. But I feel like there's so many people that, and this is kind of, it goes back to the process of discovering crypto art, finding a lot of people who are artists in crypto art that maybe didn't self-identify as artists before, but crypto art gave them that connection or it gave them that outlet to be the artist that they never were. And it feels like everyone has like an inner artist in some shape or form, right? And again, the beauty of NFTs is they're this they're not for any one thing. They're what you make of it, right? And crypto art started as like still images or GIFs, right? And now we see the progression to audio or music NFTs. It feels like in not a long time, but photography and some written form collaborations of all those different creative forms will come together to take advantage and harness the power of NFTs and the smart contracts that help power all these like, really interesting monetary transactions, formations, flows.
Yeah, there. I mean, and there's so much, um, such broad use cases for NFTs in art or outside, whether it's literature and just everything. But one thing that's exciting is video NFTs. I think it's Mint based that's upping their uh, maximum file size that you can have, like doubling it or something, and so video files are going to be easier to put onto NFTs, and that's something I've been excited about for a long time because throughout my kind of teenage years and young adult did a lot of time lapse photography. So I've got all this amazing time lapse that I just made for myself and sharing with friends, whatever. Sometimes cut it into like cool little funky montage videos and stuff. um, and so I'm excited to start sometime soon being able to share some of that through NFTs and photography. There's some new photography platforms that are focusing more on photographers to be able to mint and share their NFTs. So it is a lot of interesting stuff going on, and kind of more niches are kind of showing up. Um, so it is just super exciting to see where different platforms and different artists are taking things. And I mean, I have barely even gotten very deep into the VR stuff, which is just incredible. And hopefully I'll get a set before too long and start diving into that. Just see so many amazing, bigger pieces that feel so immersive that you could do with the VR, going in with Tilt Brush or the different apps they're using and just creating these, you know, really amazing, straight out of the imagination, someone like Joy, or there's, Giant Swan, and these people just really kind of creating
Yeah.
these world-like scenes, or just so in depth, kind of stuff inside characters. And it's just wild to see this stuff just kind of getting, evolving right before our eyes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Giant Spawn, his scenes that he creates, just they beg the viewer to want to enter and experience it. And
Right.
that's the evolution. That's where we're going. and at Metageist, like his drop. I mean, the drop on Nifty Gateway that's going to happen in a couple minutes that I'm locked and loaded for.
Oh yeah.
Like his stuff is built for obviously VR, and you can go in there, and when you're able to experience these like basically the equivalent of like statues, like in their epic proportions that they're created in by the artist, it's like wow, it's such a different world. And
Yeah.
I mean, even like Hakatao, the diamond that they created that's like on display in Decentraland, it's like perfect. Like you have these installations that are built for the native VR environment and designed with that in mind. And it's starting, like digital art is starting to find its proper home. And I know a lot
Yeah.
of people are like, oh, we need physical displays for our art. Yeah, that makes sense. But really, like the this art is at home in VR. And again, like going back to Connie Digital and shouting out what he did, like he started spreading awareness about Cryptovoxels earlier than I think anyone, and especially getting a lot of artists on board, understanding the potential and connection between digital and crypto art and VR. So I feel like that's another movement that he really helped set in motion, but it's so natural too. It's like, of course, if you get digital art, you want to hang it up in VR.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
so cool to see that
And then
progression.
there's also, I think it's still going on, the Renaissance 2020 Rome exhibition. Hackatao and a handful of artists from Italy have that. It's a live exhibition where you can go in and check the stuff out. There's sculptures also that you can go walk through with VR and like so things like that. And who was it that had the sculptures that are in like a bunch of different countries, and you can go and scan it with like the Art Vive or something like that. And if you do go and physically scan it in person, you wind up getting
Fabine,
like an NFT of it. Yeah. So there's really,
Fabine
really
Rashid, right?
cool. Yeah, that's Fabian. And it's just really interesting because when I first heard of NFTs, I kind of thought of some things like that, where you could go and like kind of look at a real statue, but then it would take on different forms or move, or music would play and it would be dancing, or like just things like that popped into my head. And to see real world exhibitions now happening where like that's out there now is just so cool, because it seemed like kind of way off. And this was maybe a couple years ago when I first heard about it. I was like, whoa, there's like anything's possible. And it's just really cool to see the people with the passion have made those ideas into reality.
Totally. I mean, it's all about the passion. I mean, when I think about you too, it's so cool, and a bunch of other folks that we all met on Scent. Like we didn't come in there as artists or like fans of crypto art or anything like that. But it was the passion that everyone had that it was like super infectious. And you caught the bug and you started dabbling in creating things and collaborating. And dude, like the passion is so infectious. And once you catch it, like it's the best source of energy and drive and motivation you could ask for. And you just keep doing it because there's this like endless source of it springing from like the next creation that you do or pursue, right?
Totally.
It's so cool.
And
It's been such an epic.
yeah, and there's so much motivation also from the passion of the people in the space. It's like we have this kind of cyclone that we all like put a little into and put a little into, and then it gets bigger and bigger, and it's like we're all kind of carried along by the passions of the community. And it is something special that I before getting into Scent, I really didn't do much social media because it wasn't that interesting to me. But then finding crypto art and all the kind of branches that crypto has you know enabled for people to pursue different hobbies, passions, artistic dreams, has just it's been something, yeah, that I couldn't have imagined beforehand, and now I couldn't imagine life without it.
Totally. And I mean, I didn't do a lot of social media before either, but there's something about that income from anywhere, the fact that you can monetize the time that you invest in a social network like Scent that I think pulled a lot of us in. And then we were struck by how thoughtful and how civil folks were, how many cool ideas were kind of percolating around there. And then I feel like it's something very similar happens when you combine like the crypto aspect with the art, having that the money be so closely associated and tied in with the art that people feel like, oh, it's kind of like it could be worth it to invest more time into creating more art. But then you get sucked in for the community, for the passion, for all these extra things, right? So I forget who said this, but it was on Scent. It was yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It was like, come
Came
for
for
the
the
money,
eat, stayed for the people. Or
stay
yeah,
for
it was.
the people. Exactly.
I'm
Who
trying
was
to think
that?
of who said it. It could have been. Oh God. I'm trying to remember. This was a while back, but yes, I kind of have a name in my head that's like wanting to come forward. Um, oh, just not quite pulling it out. But yeah, that's totally
That's
that is
way
a
back. That's way back.
it, it is definitely like totally transitioned from, that was a great quote on Scent, but it has basically, stuck to just the whole community of the wider
Yep.
crypto art.
And NFT land, I would say. Like
Yeah,
it pervades so many different sectors and it keeps spreading out from there. I
yeah,
feel, I mean,
gaming, it totally.
yeah. And like the legacy for Scent, I think right now is that sort of like spread, that kernel of that really, really small space of the people coming together and then spreading out after there's that critical mass and people feeling empowered and in Scent Mafia. Like I wrote that post, and again, like we have folks like No Shot and Colin who met on with us, were kicking it with us, and then they come up with async art, right? There's
Yep,
several. I mean, Rizzle doing his thing, right? You doing your thing. Sync young Sync doing his thing.
yep.
Connie, I mean, he was doing his thing before, right? Let's be honest with Connie. But I mean,
But
we're all
a
kind
lot
of
of us,
in that. Yeah, it's really special. It's a really
it is.
special kind of association that will always forever be linked by. So
Totally, totally. Um, I'm still trying to think of who originally said that quote.
I'm gonna dig it up as soon as it's in my bookmarks. So
Nice,
I gotta dig it
nice.
up.
I know that you're gunning for this nifty drop too, which is just coming right up. If you'll promise to come back on the show again, we could wrap it up.
Okay, that's good for me. I'm gonna buy this art and then go right to bed. I
I
got
know
very little
you.
sleep up
I
until
know
for the
that
whip.
you
Probably
get up
inspired.
at 4 a.m. is when the whip starts for you. Yeah, or
Yeah,
that's when you get
the
up.
speaker updates start at 4, so I get up at
Right.
like 3:30 so I can enjoy some of that pre-party vibiness.
That's passion and dedication right there, bro. And it was so amazing having you on. Love getting to talk with you whenever it is. And yeah, I would love to have you on, ways down the line. We'll get you back for sure. Um, have a great rest. You deserve it, and snag that drop.
Yeah, bro. Yeah,
All
you
right.
too. Good luck in the drop. Later, bro.
Thanks.
Awesome chat.
Peace.
Later.
Well, everyone, that was an incredible conversation with Matthew. He is an absolute joy to know, to talk with, to hang out with, to cruise around the metaverse with. Definitely follow him on Scent and all the places. Follow him on Twitter. Follow him on Scent. He's got amazing eye for art, incredible writer, and there's a nifty drop going down. So I think many people are probably bailing to head for that. Good time to wrap up the show. So peace out. Thanks for coming.